Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Course Correction with me, your host, Michelle. This week is going to be pretty deep. I spoke with Virginia Griffin, who is the author of the book Phoenix Rising. And in that book, she shares a lot of trauma and healing. So we kind of get into why she wrote the book, how she was feeling at the time, and what real life experiences led her to that. But I also share a lot about my personal life and some of the things that I'm going through. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you are interested in catching up on some past episodes, just go over to www.betweenusgirlspodcast.com and you can check out the whole catalog there. I spoke to Sharonda last night, and I think she might be coming back. So I'm hoping that we can get her back around Christmas so that we can party together at the Ugly Sweater Party. So be watching us on social media so that you can get in the know for that. And if you're interested in what happened between me and Virginia, then just keep on listening.
Okay, so why don't you tell me what your zodiac sign is so that I can properly stereotype you?
Oh, I'm a Gemini. I'm not your stereotypical Gemini in regards to the wishy-washiness or the thing. The only thing that because I don't really get into the zodiac signs or whatever, but just from things that I've been told from other people who have opinions of zodiac signs, I do not fit mine, except for the creativity part. Because I play the piano and I did that professionally for about 20 years.
Wow. Tell me about that. What was that like? How did you get started doing that? And why don't you do it anymore?
Well, I started playing the piano at daycare, actually. A lady that was, I guess, trying to build up her clientele would go to different daycares in the area, and she took to me and I took to the piano, and it just so happened that my mom always wanted one of her children to play the piano. And so once she found out about that, and then I vaguely remember the conversation because I was so young. I think I was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember the conversation of the lady telling my mother that I took to it like a duck to water. And that was the end of that. Like, the lessons started, and around the age of 11, I started playing for the church that I grew up at. And so it just started from there. Initially, I only played for churches, and then later on, I got, I love all kinds of music. And so later on, I wanted to venture off into, playing other genres. But my mother was not going for it.
She wanted you to stick to, like, the church.
She wanted me to stick. She had this thing, like, Mahalia Jackson only sang gospel, and you should only use your gift, for the glorification of God, which I understand.
Yeah.
But I guess once she saw later on, because I had a major tragedy happen in life, and after that, music was my only avenue for getting through and for generating income.
Yeah.
And so, I had no choice. I started helping, do beats with people, just outsourcing myself everywhere. Weddings, funerals, fun, like functions where they just wanted soft music played.
Yeah. So you just come through and tickle the ivories for everybody.
Right. Because I actually learned classical music initially before I learned, gospel. And so, once my mother saw that it was still, you can still give glorification to whom you serve. It doesn't have to just be limited to a certain genre of music. She was head over heels.
Yeah.
Supportive. So
that's good. So you said that you experienced a traumatic event. So is this something that happened in childhood or early adulthood?
Well, my life has been
a series of events.
Right.
Right.
as far as with the music, the main tragedy was the death of my son.
Right, which kind
And
of was the catalyst too for writing your book, right?
right. And so, dealing with that and just the really dark place that I was in,
Mm-hmm.
music was like the only thing that kind of kept me on this side
Yeah,
of reality. You know what I mean?
an
Because
anchor, if you will, kind of to keep you from drowning in that
right,
feeling.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I was spiraling very bad, and people noticed, but nobody really noticed because I've always been good at disguising what I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
or putting on this brave face. And so, people know that there's something going on, but if you're not walking around crying every 2 seconds, or if
They
you're
think you're
not,
okay.
they
Mm-hmm.
think you're okay, you know.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about just because I know that you've overcome a lot of grief. And when I was 16, I lost my dad, and I never really grieved that until I was an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that time from between, 2000 and I guess it was 2001, and then maybe 2011. No, I'm lying. 2000, yeah, about 2010. I finally was like, okay, well, I need to look at this pain because it
Right,
was the reason for all the other things that I had done that were kind of maybe erratic or careless or just reckless. You know what I mean?
right.
So I think it's really commendable that you were able to keep yourself from falling into these patterns of, not wanting to face what happened, not wanting to deal with the pain and everything. And it was good that you had music to take you through that.
Well, I did. I don't want to give, the misinterpretation that, or the misconception that I didn't fall
Mm-hmm.
into certain situations because I was very destructive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I was very quiet about my destruction.
Yeah.
Like,
It was a
I
personal.
suffered. Yeah, I suffered through it. Like, my decisions weren't done in, well, some things took place in public, some things didn't.
Yeah.
I never talked about it until I went to therapy at some
Mm-hmm.
point, and then I really talked about it in the book.
I was going to say that. So, like, at which point in the grieving process did you start writing Phoenix Rising?
Child, that book I started that book in the actual physical writing. I started in 2018. The physical writing of the book took like maybe a few months. And I know that's probably insulting to writers who have spent years and decades writing, but I guess I had a lot of material to work with, so it wasn't that complicated of a process for me.
Well, it depends on what you're writing too. I mean,
Right,
that was a
right,
personal story. So you
right.
had all the information already. A lot
Exactly.
of people write books, they have to go out and research, or they have to go
Right.
out, and that was a personal story, so that wasn't required for you. So it's okay that it only took you a minute. You need to get it out.
But it started, I think, let's see, I first got the idea to write a book maybe 2007, 2008, maybe around that time. Just because, at that point I was still going through something. However, I looked at the previous years of my life. I'm like, wow, my life could really be a book.
Yeah.
But at that time I was still concerned with my image and what people thought of
Well,
me.
you were young too, right?
Right. I was in 2007. I had to be like 24.
Right. And
24?
you were like early 20s, or really early 20s when your son passed away, right?
Yes, I was 21.
Okay, and so you were a teen mom, right?
Yes, I had him at 18.
Man, that must have been so, so, so traumatizing. Because you you were still a child, number one, kind of.
Right.
And then to build that bond and then be like, okay, I'm going to parent. You've convinced yourself that now you're a big girl, you're going to grow up, and I'm going to parent. And then to just have that removed, I'm so sorry. I know that you have already grieved it, But as a person who's just being introduced to the story,
Mm-hmm.
it was tough for me. I remember when we first talked, you were like, well, you know, people said that maybe I should put a trigger warning on it. And I don't think that's necessary, because I feel like that takes away from the kaboom in the book. You know what I mean? But I felt for you, for the character. I mean, in knowing that you told me that it was based on your real life experiences, I felt for you. But for readers are going to be feeling for the character.
Right.
So I know you made some changes when you wrote. What were things that you thought about when you were developing your book character?
Some of the things I thought about were how this would first impact my children that I have now. And then I thought about how this would impact my family. I thought about, you know, the other people involved, my deceased son's father, you know, things of that nature. And then I thought about the people that may have been nosy at that time in life. And, you know, nobody ever got the details, because I'm one of those people that, you know how some people will say, oh, how did they die? Or, you know, I'm not one of those people.
So you didn't really want to share that?
No.
The incident.
And the thing about it, now in the book, the child in the book dies a completely, totally different way from the way my child passed in real life. You know, because of course you have to, you know, sell your book. You know what I mean? And so
you feel there was more drama surrounding the...
Yes, there was way more drama in the book. And the book is way more dramatic.
So they still don't know.
No, they still don't know. No, they still do not know. And
I mean, it's personal. You don't have to share that if you don't want to.
Right.
You know?
And then that was just my basis of my freedom, so to speak. You know, I that's what kind of took the book in a different direction, because initially I was going to do an autobiography style book. But turning it into a novel gives you like a safety net, because that title novel sort of covers you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It issues that creative license. So I'm able to give my truth. You know, in certain parts there is absolute unadulterated truth. Yeah. You know, but unless you were actually in my life at that time, you won't really know.
Which is which. You know, I think that's kind of interesting too, is it's like whenever you take your life and turn it into fiction, it kind of gives you an opportunity too to write out some of the, I wish I would have reacted to XYZ like this.
Right.
So in that way, kind of giving yourself some healing. Because I think you did tell me that it was cathartic for you to write the book.
Absolutely was. It absolutely was. And you know, you look at situations, you think back on things, even the things that didn't make the final draft, I was still able to address, you know, a lot of the disrespect that took place at that time in my life that I maybe wasn't able to address then.
Right, but, like with the girlfriend.
You know, that, and then there were other people that, you know, did things, then that stuff didn't make the book, you know.
But you were able to write it out in that.
Right.
And that was therapy.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, what would you suggest to people who are maybe not writing a book, but who... Okay, so I'm going to put it like this. There are some people who need therapy, but won't go. We know that. But they might journal.
Right.
What are some things that you would suggest people write about to find healing? Like, just pick some traumatic event and start writing about it, or do you think it needs to be like something really significant, or else it's just pointless? Maybe that was kind of an odd question. I'm sorry, I had a mind.
No, it's fine. It's fine. You know, I've journaled in life, and journaling didn't necessarily work for me personally. But I think that whether it's journaling by hand, whether it's starting a blog, whether it's, you know, everybody's phone pretty much has voice recording available. Get it out. That I will tell anybody. Get it out and The second thing is, do not concern yourself with other people's opinions
Right.
of what you're dealing with or their response to how you're dealing with something. Because what you're dealing with, what you feel, how you feel, what you think, how you react is valid. And that is what irritates me the most with society as a whole. People will try to invalidate how a person feels based on their reactions to things. You know, because a mother that loses her child, she doesn't care because she's not wailing and passing out publicly.
Right.
What everybody isn't, that's not everybody's response to things. You know, when my child passed away, when my mother passed away, I'm not a public crier. That's not me. I don't show public displays of affection with, you know, happy things. I'm not a public display of emotion. That's not how I operate. And I'm pretty sure people thought I was cold-hearted, or maybe they thought I had shut down, or I don't know. But I don't believe in crying in public. And then another thing is that when you have a peace, and I can't find a better word, but when you are at peace with your relationship, sometimes all of that isn't necessary. You know, the times that hurt you are the quiet moments, the alone moments, the moments where the quote-unquote work is done. You know, after the arrangements have been made, after the purchases have been made, after the services have been had.
Right.
You know, it's the everyday.
Right. Right, because that person or that person is missing from your regular
routine.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was one of the things that was so hard for me, is that I had to kind of be the tough person because everybody else was crying.
That's how it was with me. You know, when my son passed away, it was, you know, nobody can handle it.
Yeah.
And even now, looking back, it's like I don't begrudge anybody at this point. But at that time in life, I was highly offended. I was irritated because I'm like, nobody carried him for 9 months.
I did.
Nobody pushed him out except me. How are you more hurt than me?
Well, and it's like they can't even
had to
feel
make the arrangements by myself.
Yeah.
You know, that part. And it's like
I could feel that in reading that. All of that was really disturbing, especially in the way that the character reacted to her baby dad and his lack of assistance in anything. I mean, and yes, everybody reacts differently to grief, but like, where is your support? I mean, you can use, you know, the universe, Heavenly Father, whatever you want to call it, you can use that, but I can't also support you when no one's supporting me. You know what I mean? Because you're expected to handle all the tangibles and to support grandma and support people who feel like they might be any part responsible or anything. You know what I mean? It's like, what about me?
Right.
Can I have my moment? Can I live?
Right. I didn't have that luxury.
Right.
You know, because that's a luxury. At the end of the day, I had to mommy up, woman up, boss up, whatever you want to call it.
And you were young.
I was 21.
Barely old enough to have open a bottle of wine.
Listen, you know, here it is. Most people, you know, they're planning. They're, you know, 21. They're going to Vegas. They're going to the club because you can, you know, go straight to the bar now. You can go to the liquor store. You have all these quote unquote milestones, and I'm planning a funeral.
Right, for your child.
For my child. And it was mind-boggling at that time. You know,
Absolutely.
there was a lot of anger and resentment, you know, at that time in
Absolutely.
life.
And feeling like I know I don't deserve this. I know all of my good work went for nothing. I know this is not what I not what I signed up for. But I think, and this is not to be insensitive, but I think we experience things so that we can grow, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now we're in our 30s, and are you 40?
No, I'm 37.
Yeah, I was going to say you're not 40 yet, but think of what you might be or where you might be if you hadn't experienced that growth at such a young age. You know what I mean? And having to
Ooh.
handle that kind of responsibility, having to show up every day in the face of that grief for such a young person, I mean, that creates resilience in you, you know?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
there's so many women that in our age who haven't lost anyone yet,
Right.
who haven't had to fight themselves or,
Right.
you know, to get through that pain. So I would say, I think it's probably turned you into a much stronger person. And I mean, look at how much you're doing now. You've already decided to go back and get started with On the Rocks again. You
Right.
know, you look at life differently whenever you've been able to say, I can let something go because I had to. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's you know, I say this all the time, and you know, it's probably I don't know. I hope this helps somebody when I say it. But the mother that I was, the woman that I was at 21, I'm so far removed from her at 37.
Mm-hmm.
And not because of the numbers, you know, because age is nothing but a number.
Right.
But the things that I've had to endure and just, you know, that time of not being a quote unquote mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I didn't have any children, those years in between my first son and my now oldest son, you know, it's a lot of time of reflection. And the mother that I was at 18, 19, 20, 21, my son, I loved him dearly, but looking back, he was like a glorified accessory. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
super
He
cute,
wasn't, right.
double dressed.
Name brand,
Yeah.
everything. You know, mind you, this child was being raised by two adult children.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the baby of my family. His dad was the baby of his family. We were both spoiled,
Mm-hmm.
and you
He
know,
was gonna beat you.
he was gonna be a mess. You know, it's you know, the thing, like, we were the parents, like, I know you see this nowadays, but we were the parents that would dress a child in all white and go to a birthday party and be like,
Yeah.
don't you dare get dirty.
Oh, because we want you to be cute. Just
Right.
unrealistic. Yeah.
Just unrealistic. You know,
Like, I can't even dress my child in red and expect her to look ugly.
exactly. This is insane. Or the amount of money you spend on these labels for a child that's only going to wear it for like 2 seconds because they grow so fast. You know, it's just,
Do you think you would have learned any of that had he still been here?
Absolutely not.
And I don't want to say that like I think, oh, that's your lesson. Because I don't know. You know,
no,
and you don't know.
There's women, I honestly don't think I would have learned that, for one, because I would probably still be in the relationship.
Yeah. Were y'all on and off for real? Like,
no, we were on. I got pregnant.
uh-huh.
We were off because, mind you, I was fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
He was in college, and it was like,
both
this
just
was not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
We were having fun.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't even experienced the world yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I was still being in a relationship. And while it was a great relationship, it's just one of those relationships that was not meant to go into adulthood. You know.
Yeah. And then
and
thinking about how painful it was to end that relationship. And now you're probably like, child, please. You know what I mean?
Right? It's like at the time, this is all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my life went from being a carefree kid, trying to figure out, okay, where I'm going in life, what am I going to do, what I want to do, because now I'm going to have freedom to make my own decisions. And, you know, went from that to, okay, I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, I thought I was going to be a single mother because, you know, mind you, me and his dad had broke up.
Yeah.
But then once the baby got here, we got back together. We were a family. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we grew up. We moved in together. We were living that life. And mind you, we were surrounded by our friends who were carefree and childless.
Right.
You know? And so it's like we're the quote unquote semi-adults looking at them like life is not fair.
Right, right.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. And then, then they started having kids and it's like, okay, well, we get acclimated to our situation. And, life, we were struggling, but we were okay because we had the foundations of his family, my family.
Right.
But then he died
Mm-hmm.
and unexpectedly, and neither of us were prepared. I don't think it ever goes away. Because even now, the birthdays pass.
Yeah.
Like this year, he would have been graduating and going to college, and he would have graduated last year and been going to college this year. And you think about things like that because I see that have children
the same age.
my son would have been. And,
right.
You think about the very people that, not everybody, but majority of people that go above and beyond for the proms and, the graduations. It's like, I would have been right there.
Yes, you probably would have.
Same thing. The very same thing. And I'm just like, I'm thankful that it happened, because my priorities are different.
So you feel like, I feel like that's an amazing way to look at that. You're like, it was experience that did bless you because it grew you past superficiality.
Yes. It did.
And it's
because
like,
I'm more focused on, like right now, my first child didn't have life insurance. I didn't have life insurance anymore because, my mom was like, okay, some things you have to be responsible for.
Mm-hmm. So you were like, I'm not paying for that.
Right. So I'm like, well, I'm not, at 18, you think you're invincible. You don't think you're going to die. It's like, oh, that's not a priority. I'll just tell her I still have it, but I didn't. You don't think about things like that. Whereas now I have a will that I update every year or every major change in life. I have life insurance for myself and the children, just in case. Because some things are inevitable. And even if they don't use it until they're well into whatever, it's there, it's taken care of,
Yeah.
And it's just certain things like I don't put priority on them appearing to be a certain type of child. I let them be children now. I didn't do that with my first, and I know that sounds so crazy because my first child was so young, but he didn't have the opportunity to just be a baby and be a child. With these children, I allow them to be children. They still have responsibilities.
Yeah.
But I'm a totally different mother. I'm focused on the end goal. I'm focused on the end game. And I structure our lives to where, like, okay, we're serious. Okay, it's time to take a break. It's time to decompress. It's time to be a child. Be your age. Be age appropriate.
So you're still on that. This is the expectation that I want you to meet, but we can also have fun at the same time.
Right.
That's good. I'm really proud of you because I feel like you have an amazing outlook on having lost a child anyway, because you are talking so openly about really how you were failing before then. Or not necessarily failing, but what you were doing, as a young woman. I had my first child at 21 too, and he's 14 now, and he's extremely entitled.
Oh.
But it's because I was a young woman.
Right.
And I was an overgrown child having a baby.
It happens. And I don't care what nobody says.
It does happen. I saw yesterday that Brian McKnight was actually talking about two of his kids that kind of called him to the carpet saying that he was abandoned or something that he did.
And they tried to call him a deadbeat.
Right. And he was like, basically, these some spoiled brats. Right. And, and it happens. So, it's big ups to you for recognizing that that's what probably his life would have been like, how your life would have been.
Right. And another thing, I think that's lacking in society, we don't like to lose. Yeah. For appearance sake. Everybody's always winning. Everybody's perfect. Nobody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm flawed.
And you know what?
Right.
So do they.
Right. Oh, listen. But
And
I'm open to admitting it. That's the thing.
exactly,
Like, I don't have a
exactly.
problem talking about, my failures. I don't have a problem with talking about my inadequacies.
Hmm.
I don't have a problem with talking about the difference between my parenting then and who I was then,
Right.
and versus who I am now. I don't have a problem with discussing the horrible decisions I made at that time. And
Yeah.
most people can try to, most people give me this quote unquote pass. Oh, well, you were grieving. Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't grieve. I did not
Right.
grieve.
Until
If
way
I
later.
would have been grieving, right. If I would have been grieving, I would not have made the decisions that I made.
Right. Because you would have been putting yourself and your real feelings at the forefront
right.
of whatever it is.
Right.
I don't think people know how to grieve, honestly.
You don't. It's a process, and then especially if you have, like, the woman that I am has a lot to do with my mother being the woman she was.
Yeah.
She rarely showed emotion when she was
down and out.
When she was upset or something wasn't going right. She never showed. She was superwoman in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not want to emulate that any longer. And it happens by default because, then at that time, it's like my mother, she had took off when he died. My mother took off from work. She stayed with me. But I could see she was going stir crazy because she was one of those women, she don't know how to not work.
And everybody y'all probably should have just hugged and cried.
And we didn't.
Yeah, I know.
We did not. And she would try. Now, on her part, I would give her this. She did try.
Mm-hmm.
She did way more than anybody else at that time. And I get it. That was a tough thing to deal with. A baby dying so young. And, I never held that, against anybody after I came to terms with it, after I got closure.
Mm-hmm.
But, I told my mom, I was like, Mama, go back to work. I'm okay. I'm blah, 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 blah. Instead of, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And
just admitting.
It does hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And right. And, but you have to be taught that. You have to be taught that it's okay to say that you're not okay.
Well, and you have to be taught that saying I'm hurting is not weak. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because
and that's another thing that we do not.
Right.
We do not discuss it. If you cry, if you say you're not okay, you're considered weak and you need to get over it. And that is just BS. It's BS. Because the emotions that we're given as human beings are there for a reason.
Yeah. That's the intention is for us to be able to feel all of those things. Because feeling those things lets you know, I don't like this feeling, or I like this feeling, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And it helps you to create your life.
Exactly. Because when you avoid it, you create a destructive path.
Right.
That, you're not being logical. You're not making decisions that you would make if you were actually processing the emotions as they should be instead of running from them.
Exactly. If you were living authentically.
Right. And I'm guilty of that. A lot of not a lot. All of the situations that I got myself into following the death of my child were completely based off of the misdirection of my response to my emotions.
Yeah.
And not processing that I'm supposed to hurt.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to, feel a certain way. I'm supposed to, cry because here it was. 1 minute I've accepted being an adult and being a mother, and this is my life, and being a quote unquote pseudo wife.
And now I'm not.
And now I'm not.
Just that fast.
I don't know what to do with myself.
And my baby's gone.
That baby.
Yes. I feel like I mean, like, in losing my dad, it was traumatic, but I don't know how I would be able to come out of losing a kid. Like, that was one things that I was afraid of when I had my son, was that something would happen to him, or that he would get sick. I don't know why that was my first thought, because I'm neurotic and anxious, but I'm always like, I would be devastated. And sometimes I'm concerned that maybe that's what I manifested for my life. Like a loss like that. Just because I have focused on it a lot because I'm like scared of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But in talking to you, it's like, I mean, yes, it's a traumatic experience, but you can still live after that. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not, as with any, because pain is relative, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's just what may not impact me as much may destroy you. What
Right.
may, not bother you could destroy me. So it's all relative to the person. However, I truly, truly believe that a lot of times, the pain of dealing with certain situations like a death or whatever the case may be, is just, it has to be processed. It has to be processed, and it has to be processed head on, and you cannot avoid it.
I agree. Yeah.
It just can't be avoided.
Well, when you look at people and how they act, I feel like sometimes you can pinpoint people who are kind of running away from grief,
right?
Or any feelings.
True.
Because of the way they react to maybe comments that you make about something they might have done, or even just any mention of how they feel. Oh, I'm good. Like, I find myself sometimes falling back into that. I'm okay, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that I need to feel. Like recently we found out some things about my daughter, and she's going to struggle in school. And I think she's smart. Personally, I think she's extremely intelligent. The things that she does are way beyond me. I'm like, wow, girl, that was amazing. But for the school, she's going to fall. You know what I mean? And so I had to come to terms with accepting that we would have a different life than the one that I imagined. You know what I mean? So I'm not okay. So if anybody's listening to this and they think I'm acting erratically, I'm dealing, because I'm human. And I appreciate this conversation with you because you're helping me to accept that, And I want people to know that this show is me talking to people that I think are brilliant and doing amazing things and dealing with life in an amazing way, because I'm on my own course correction.
Right.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
In regards to your daughter, one thing I've learned as far as school, from myself and my struggles in school to, now watching my children, school is overrated.
Yeah, man.
It's overrated, and you have to remind yourself constantly that don't put too much stock into basically them trying to evaluate and validate your child.
Right.
Because the typical learning process does not work for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, and that's the thing. That's what frustrates me so much, is that there's this one test and one track that everyone's supposed to be on. That's impossible. Humans are not created that way.
Exactly. So don't put too much stock into that, and don't give too much energy to, this standardized cookie cutter, definition of what someone's telling you in regards to your child.
Right. I appreciate that.
If you feel she's brilliant and you feel she's intelligent, it just may not be this particular area or this teaching method that's reaching her.
Right. And I think that's part of it.
Because in high school, I was very disinterested in high school in certain subjects, because they have this cookie cutter way of teaching. Whereas when I got to college, I flourished. I was on the dean's list, and, I was excited about going to school, in college. And, like the counselors, my high school counselor, she literally told me that I would never amount to anything.
See, that's bullshit.
You know what I mean?
Why would you tell that to another person?
Because I didn't fit the cookie cutter mold.
I hate it. I hate that.
I'm an artsy, creative person.
Right.
But most of society doesn't know what to do with the creative person.
No,
the creative person is right. Right. They have ADHD. They can't focus.
Yes.
The creative is a scary individual to society because the creative person is always thinking. Yeah. The creative person isn't afraid to try. The creative person is not afraid to fail.
Right.
But the creatives are what makes the world go round.
Right, because we're the doers.
If it wasn't for the creative person, you wouldn't have the light bulb, you wouldn't have gas, you wouldn't have cars, you wouldn't have
any of this shit.
Nothing.
We would still be living outside.
Right, in tents or in caves.
Yeah.
Or, the creatives are needed in society.
Right.
Period. And, I have all of my children are creative, but one is more artsy than, the rest. And I know that's going to frustrate me with the school aspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't want him to lose sight of it's okay to be creative. We just have to find what avenue that's going to flourish in.
Right.
And nourish it. So whatever avenue, don't let, society give whatever this school person is telling you in regards to your child. You are with that child. You've been with that child every day.
Right.
Of life, of existence. You know her.
Right.
So I honestly would suggest just being encouraging to her, because she has to go out there and deal with these people who are going to say and imply and, body language, and vibe her into a bad space.
And I don't want that for her.
But we have to have those things to learn.
I know. That's her experience. I can't. I was talking to Fernando, my friend. He's a psychic. And when I found out kind of the test results for everything, I was, understandably kind of upset just because that's my baby. I don't want her to struggle. I don't want her to have to tough it out. I don't want people talking about her. The whole mom, the whole thing. And he's like, well, you have to understand that this is her experience. You never know what she experienced previously. She could be wanting to relax. Or she could be wanting to, whatever it is. I don't know what her experience is. All I can do is try to be whatever I'm supposed to be as a component. Right. So I'm trying to turn off my controlling mom thing and just let her be as her as she's going to be. Now, I think that she can read people's aura. I think that she is intuitively psychic. I think there's all these things about her that I think are amazing, but will never fly in public school.
Of course.
So it's just a matter of us having to come to a place where we can kind of balance it all. So that's, she's going to be in first grade, so we've got a lot of years to work it out, I guess.
Right. But she's going to be fine. It's just the main thing you have to protect is not allowing her to ever feel diminished.
Right.
Or, well, maybe she may feel it, but not allowing her to stay in that.
Right.
And not allowing her to embrace that and not allowing that to become dominant in her life.
See, she's got a pretty good grasp on thinking that she's the shit. So I'm okay with that. So she's
fine.
Yeah, she thinks, she's like, well, that's not what I thought, but you thought it, but it's still wrong, so whatever.
She's gonna be fine. Listen, as long as you can keep her in that space, she's gonna be good.
Right.
She'll be able to handle whatever comes her way.
Right.
Like, whatever.
Because see, that was my main concern, was that, okay, well, she's gonna go to school and then kids are going to bully her or they're going to do this, but she's like not like me. Like I'm a much more sensitive as an empath person. I'm like so sensitive, and she's just like, anyway, fuck y'all. I'm smart. I'm this. I'm fabulous, and I don't think she'll have the issues that I had. So I need to just let her have her experience and try to
Right.
stay on the outside of it as much as possible, because I don't want to interfere too much, you know.
Right. And that's all that matters. I have that personality, and so like your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's how I can tell you from experience. She's gonna be just fine. It's gonna
See, I
you're
think,
probably gonna be more upset about things than she will.
yeah,
Like, she'll come to you to vent just to get it off her chest, and you'll be the one that's like, "Oh no, we have to do this, we have to do that." And she's like, I'm telling you, she's gonna be like, "Mom, I just need to vent. That's all. We're done."
yeah. She'll move
So,
past it. I think she's a lot. I wouldn't
mhm.
say she's a lot stronger than me, but she's a lot stronger than me,
Gotcha.
because, like I said, I've always been myself, but it was so easy for people to turn me off of myself
Right.
as a kid, you know. And it wasn't until I was an adult until I was like, you kind of that nigga. So, like, you need to stop letting people turn you around.
Right.
And, you know, come and take you up. Too many niggas trying to take me off of my
Right.
game. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like, you need to stay on you. And I don't think
Right.
that I'll have that problem with her. And for somebody like you, which is how you were able to kind of combat all that you've gone through, is just by kind of remaining true to yourself. What would you say to people who are growing up like me, who need a boost?
Find somebody, if it's not a parent, find someone that you can trust that feeds that life into you, that feeds that encouragement into you. And because you definitely need that type of person. I'm not so self-sufficient that I don't have that person. But I think everyone should have that type of person, but especially those who are like you.
Mm-hmm.
You extra need that one or two people. However, but I know definitely if not more than one, you definitely need that one person that, you can be you, you're safe with that person, and, you can just speak your piece, speak whatever it is that needs to be said, and, not be concerned with a fallout after,
Right. Where somebody you can talk to, you can be 100%.
Right. Because that's another thing that I'm really big on now is talking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay to vent to yourself, and it's okay to journal. It's okay to, record yourself if that, if that's a better version of journaling for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you need a person. You need a person.
Right. You need to talk to somebody.
Yes, because sometimes just talking about it out loud to a person that you know is listening, even if you come to the solution yourself, you wouldn't have reached that solution if it hadn't been a person.
Right. Well, right. And I think that's where, like, the journaling kind of comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're writing, you're writing to yourself, but remember too that there's a higher being in you that came here with the answers that you're looking for. So sometimes they come, in the writing. But I think when people are afraid of therapy, you don't have to go to a specific therapist if you're really, really afraid of it. Just talk to somebody.
Right.
We want you to talk to someone.
Absolutely.
I think people hold on to a lot because they're like, I don't need a therapy. Yes, you do. Everyone needs a sounding board. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, some people have deeper seated issues that do require a professional. And there's nothing wrong with that, I think nothing wrong with it. So,
it's not.
Are you still in therapy now?
No, I have not went for some years. It was kind of like once I got back to me,
mm-hmm.
and once I,
the new you.
Right. Once I embraced the new me, and once I regained my identity, because I had really lost myself. And the insane thing is that it's hard to lose yourself, but it's even harder to lose yourself when you really didn't know yourself.
Yes, especially when you're so young. You're like you barely know what you like. You barely know what moves you. You barely know what you're going to do, and then you have to start over from that. Oh, Lord.
Right. And then it's like, because sometimes you run into those who knew you from then, and they have these opinions, and they try to, that's not who I am. I have became someone that I formed this identity based off of the people I surrounded myself with.
Right. And the growth that I experienced and the and the trauma or whatever I had to go through to become this person.
Exactly.
You don't know me.
Exactly. Like, how do you know me? I didn't know me.
Right. So, you don't know. You know what I showed you. Or you know what was coming through from what I would allow out. But you don't know me. Only the people we let know us. So that's why I think it's important to reiterate that to kids, especially when people are trying to label them or give them labels, give them information about themselves, picking on them at school or whatever. These people do not know you. Only you and you know you. And that will always be so.
Exactly. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
But thankfully, at this stage in life, especially with not having a mother anymore, I'm very, very blessed to I have a best friend, and I love her so very, very much. She taught me and is still teaching me, how to be a good friend.
Yeah.
I never realized how toxic I was and how toxic people were around me.
Yeah. Until you have to meet somebody who comes from a different.
Right. And then they push you to not only be who you genuinely are, because she pushes me to be my genuine self.
That's good.
But then she also pushes me to be a better version of my genuine self regularly, because there should always be growth. There should always be change. You should never remain the same. Never. And, I'm very, very grateful for that, because there's a certain level of accountability and responsibility that I think people are lacking these days.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you are surrounded by people who never hold you accountable, and these are your friends.
Those aren't your friends.
You need a new set of friends.
Yeah.
Because if they're never telling you, hey, come on, you're wrong, or, that's not cool, or you're better than this, or, anything to make you look at yourself and look at your actions and say, you know what? Okay. Maybe so. You know what I mean?
Even for me too, is like, I've had people and I'm going to just be honest, like, I came from a place where everybody was anxious. I've talked about this before. Right. Like, my household, everybody was anxious. And that's just the way it came down, like, grandma was like that, mama, I am, we all have it. Shoot, Kayla has anxiety. Every girl is like, oh my God, the sky's falling. So we just all extra, and it's like, I'm having to stop myself from reacting that way. I'm like, no, you don't need that.
Right.
You don't need that. And it's like a huge process, because for so many years, I'm 35 years old, and for so many years it was like, act crazy. But it wasn't until somebody else was like, do you know that are y'all crazy? And I'm like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't be reacting that way. But it wasn't until somebody else told me, hey, maybe you should look at how you react to that, because if you don't need to expend all that energy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you definitely need good friends to tell you, to check you and be like, turn your crazy just a little bit down.
Right.
You don't need that much crazy today.
Right. Because sometimes, you can't over-evaluate a situation.
Yeah.
Something. And I strongly believe in the check and balance system. You know, and I'm not saying that to say that, you know, my best friend and I always agree,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because sometimes there are instances like, no, I don't agree with it, you know, and I'm adamant about how I feel, and she's adamant about, you know, her differential view.
Right.
But, you know, it's not juvenile to where it's like, oh, you disagree with me, we're not friends anymore.
Right.
You know,
but it does give you a starting point to look at what happened.
Right.
You know.
Right. Because I will always be considerate of her perspective, and then through her and our relationship, it teaches me to be observant of other people's perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the perspectives that people have on certain subjects that are near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're engaged in a conversation, I will consider another person's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even if at the end of it all, I don't agree, okay, I don't agree, but it's not going to cause me to be, oh, you're a hater, or oh, you're childish, or, you
right,
know.
because sometimes people are just telling the truth. Or, I mean,
Right.
and you got to remember that that's their perception.
Exactly.
So if they're perceiving it that way, then what are you giving off? So maybe
Exactly.
there's some truth to it. And if it's not, like, at least go back and look through it. If it's not, then you can say, well, maybe this is not somebody I want to have around me because
Exactly.
blah, blah, blah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, what is something that you want the listeners to know about you or the book?
So, let's see. In reference to the book, not to toot my own horn, but toot, I think it's an amazing book for a writer fresh out the gate. Like I said, I had a cheat code because, you know, I didn't have to make anything up.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to research like, oh, is this believable? Oh, is this feasible? Is this possible? Is this, you know, I didn't have to do any of those things. I did write from a very weird perspective. I've never seen this in a book, where you have two different viewpoints in one book. I have a first person point of view in the book, and then I have a third person point of view.
Okay.
You know, so the heroine, the main character, she's giving you the first person perspective, and then, you know, the other characters, it's the third person point of view. You know, just for entertainment sake, and then also, as far as with the other characters, a lot of information, a lot of the views I wasn't necessarily privy to. This is just my opinion based on actions that I experienced, that this was a person's viewpoint. You know, because I think actions are very telling. So how a person acts tells you a lot of what they're thinking and how they feel.
Right.
So these were, you know, my interpretation of, you know, certain actions that took place. Let's see. There's, of course, all names have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty.
Okay.
But I think it's an amazing story. Hopefully, ultimately, my goal for the book is to inspire someone. Yes, for entertainment, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, the underlying story is saving grace. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I want someone, because the suicide rates are like ridiculously high these days. And that's a subject that is really prevalent for me, simply because I've considered it,
Yeah.
I've attempted it, and I want people to know that that's not the answer. I know a lot of people will disagree with me. I know I'll probably be vilified for, you know, that seemingly judgmental opinion.
Well, I mean, all you can really say about that is if you kill yourself, the shit that made you want to die is still there.
That and my viewpoint is this: I feel like every person that's in this world is here for a reason.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to embrace positivity, to be a light in somebody's life, or whether you choose to be a negative catalyst.
We need
You
those
still,
too.
right, you still play a part in impacting somebody's life.
Right.
I just, I don't, I want the suicide rate to drop. And it's just kind of a perspective of, this is everything that I've survived, and I'm still here. And had I not been here, I wouldn't be here to tell you that I can overcome this. You can too.
Right. Right.
You know, whatever it is, you know, no matter what you're going through, no matter what it is, whether it's I lost my job, whether it's I lost, you know, my parent, I lost my child, I lost, you know, my significant other, whatever the case may be, it will change. Period. You know, nothing stays the same forever. Good things don't stay the same forever. Bad things don't stay the same forever. There's no place in history where you've seen something stay the same forever. Period. Right. And so just hold on, be persistent, keep pushing. If you need to take a break, rejuvenate, revive, whatever the case may be, and then get back in the fight. So that was my goal, you know, ultimately with the book. And then as far as myself, nothing much new with me. I'm just trying to switch gears career-wise. I kind of want to put myself in a position to be able to give more time to promoting the book.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of leaving corporate America again.
Good.
And going back into entrepreneurship full time. You know, going back into my first love, the beauty industry. That was where I spent majority of my time when I wasn't playing music. So I'll be back doing nails. Well, I'm actually already back, but full time towards the beginning of 2020.
Okay.
But that's about it for me. I'm just wanting to focus on pushing this book. I was going to do like a follow-up book, but actually come from the perspective of an autobiography. But I think I'll wait because I really haven't nurtured this one as much as I should have.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, you know, spend more time with this one. I will definitely be doing something very special around the 1-year anniversary, which will be in November.
Okay.
But other than that, I just, you know, want to get the book out there because, you know, there are people that need to read this.
Yeah, definitely. Because
so,
you can heal and things can change. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And another myth that I would like to kind of get rid of, there is this pseudo woke connotation that you can't learn anything from novels or or from fictional books or things like that. And I seriously disagree with it. I have a serious problem with people that try to shame people for reading fiction. You can learn a lot from fiction. I read fiction and nonfiction. And I've learned a lot of interesting details more so from fiction than the nonfiction.
Well, you know, I think when you learn or when you go to learn, when you decide you want to learn or however it works, if you're reading something that's fiction and it makes you think, well, I want to learn more about this subject matter. Right. That right there has taught you something.
Exactly.
You know, so anything that makes you think can teach you.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's nonsense to say that nonfiction can't teach because, I mean, we have whole books about, like, what was that? I don't know what it was called. Oh, A Wrinkle in Time.
Oh, exactly.
But it led a lot of people to look into spirituality.
Exactly.
You know, and that's not a real nonfiction book, you know what I mean? But it's
Right.
still, it's the ideals behind whatever is being written that kind of
Exactly.
leads you to look into it more. So
Exactly.
definitely. So why don't you tell everybody how to find you and how to find your book, Phoenix Rising?
Okay. You can find myself in the book by first visiting my website, www.v as in Victor, S Griffin, GRIFFIN.com. Instagram is at real VS Griffin. Twitter, the same. Phoenix Rising can be purchased at your local bookstore. You will probably have to order it as a special request, but it can be purchased from your local bookstore. You can find it on my website. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it in the iTunes bookstore. Phoenix Rising is everywhere.
And one day she's going to let me help her do an Audible version.
Yes, absolutely. I was actually working on that. But I had to postpone matters because, it's kind of like doing you get people to do auditions.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was getting to be a bit monotonous because I just wasn't finding the right voice.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was like, okay, let me take a break. I keep running into a brick wall with this. So let me take a break and, I'll revisit that again because a lot of people, are into Audible.
Yeah. Shoot, they charged me $16.24 last month.
Oh, no. I had no clue. So I definitely want to tap into that market. I need that.
The right voice.
There are a lot of nuances in the book, and so some things have to be tweaked. And so I kind of, have to figure out which direction I exactly want to go in. But we will definitely talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I appreciate you letting me talk your ear off for an hour.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming to talk to the audience. And this was my first episode, you guys, where I brought back wine. So I'm a little bit whiny. But I enjoyed talking to you. And I really hope everybody goes and checks out the book because it helped me. And it's going to help y'all too out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that was this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just make sure that you come back next week for a new episode. And make sure that you subscribe on YouTube so that you don't miss my course notes whenever I'm able to upload them, that is. All right, bye.